Hey everyone, Jason Weckerle here. In today's video, I'm going to teach you guys how to fillet a walleye or any type of freshwater fish, whether it's panfish like perch, crappie, bluegill. You could use these tips to fillet bass, northern pike. Northern pike have Y bones. I have another video if you guys want to watch how to fillet a northern pike. I'll leave that video down in the description below. But I'm going to go through all the tips on how to fillet a walleye and how to package a fish for the freezer. Number one, you need yourself a very sharp fillet knife. And I really love just these cheap Weckerle fillet knives. This is about an $8 to $10 knife. And for some reason, these knives, I can keep them sharp. They maintain their sharpness longer. There's even more expensive Weckerle brand fillet knives, and I own a bunch of those too, but for some reason, the one with this kind of maroon handle, I can keep them sharp. They last forever. I'm really happy with them. This one's already about 10 to 15 years old, and I have another one I haven't even used yet, and I'm still sharpening, maintaining that blade. I've filleted hundreds, thousands of fish maybe with this thing over the years, and highly recommended. The maroon handle Weckerle fillet knife. But anyways, when I start to fillet my walleyes, every walleye, they actually have meat inside their cheeks right here. It's like a circular piece of meat that they call walleye scallops. And what you do is you take your fillet knife. You don't have to do this, but they're good little appetizers when you're frying up the fish, and you can make all sorts of soups out of them and appetizers, like I said. Just fry them right up, throw them right in the grease, but you just want to cut in a circle just like so. And I get my fillet knife up underneath. Takes a little bit of practice. And you guys can see it's a circular piece of meat, and you just take that skin and you can peel it right off just like so, and you got yourself a walleye scallop. You collect enough of these, you can make like walleye clam chowder, like a walleye chowder soup, all sorts of stuff. They're really good fried, delicious. But before I get started on filleting this entire fish, you want to get yourself some salt, whether it's sea salt or just table salt, whatever. A pot of really cold water and some ice. And what you do, dump that ice in the water, pot of water right there. And you gotta watch out, because once you put the salt in this water, the water gets super cold. You can give yourself frostbite actually touching it, but what you want to do is just take the salt, pour a fair amount of it in that water, just like so, and those ice cubes and that salt, they chill the fillets, so they firm the fillets up, and the salt takes all the oils and some of the toxins and blood and stuff out of the meat. But one thing I'll tell you guys to do is when you catch your walleyes, you can keep them alive on a strainer or in a live well or a big fish basket, bucket, whatever for a while. But you want to bleed those fish out before they die by cutting their gills with a fillet knife or a pliers, ripping them. Bleed your fish out, cut those gills, let them bleed out in the water. All the blood gets out of the meat, and the meat stays fresher, longer, and tastes a lot better that way. Now that we got the salt water with ice all made up, let's get started. All right, what you want to do is take your fillet knife, lift up that fin on the side, and I like to cut down on kind of an angle, right behind the gill. You can see right there. And you cut down a little bit and stop, because you'll feel the spinal cord. You want to stay on this side of the dorsal fin. the bat fin. But turn that fillet knife with the blade pointed towards the tail and start cutting down. Some people cut right through the rib cage, but I'm showing you guys how to not cut through the rib cage. You get a lot less mess from the guts spilling out because the rib cage holds the guts in, and you'll get a lot more meat doing it this way. So hold on, I'll show you. But keep following that backbone, then you can come out the other side just like that, all the way down to the tail. Takes a little bit of practice, but you got your fish opened up there, and then you just take that fillet knife and shave the fillet away from the rib cage, just like so. And some guys, like I said, they'll cut right through the rib cage. That's all right. But I like to get a lot of belly meat off my fish. So you can see, this is the rib cage right here, this white part. You can hear them. I'm shaving that meat with the tip of the fillet knife. That's why it's important to have a very sharp fillet knife. Keep your knives sharp. But I'm just kind of peeling that meat away from that rib cage as good as I can. There you go. I'm always happy to open up a fish and see that it's a male instead of a female walleye, because ever since they changed the limits to 18 inches, most of those 18 plus inch fish you catch are females with eggs in their belly. But what can you do if you want to harvest fish? Gotta take what you can get. But this one's a male. It's got sperm sacs inside of it. But here we go. I got that fillet off the side of the fish. You can see no rib cage. And this is all belly meat right here. I'll put that off to the side. And I'll flip the fish over again, show you guys one more time. By the way, I like to use newspaper. Save your newspapers, because the fish don't slide around. Like a lot of cutting boards, even ones that are made for filleting fish, the fish is sliding around the cutting board. You can cut yourself. You're chasing the fish around basically more than you're spending time, or you're wasting time chasing the fish around the cutting board basically. So newspaper, you can just wrap it up with the guts, throw it away. You can see it doesn't slide around. But again, the walleye cheek right there, you cut in a circle. Sometimes you accidentally puncture the eyeball. It's kind of gross, but hey, there's nothing pretty about butchering animals. So there we go. Just cutting in a circle, you can see. And then get your knife kind of underneath it. And some people are like, oh man, I never knew that you can do that. And what's weird is it's like walleyes are the only fish I really find face meat. But there you go. I peeled it right off the skin. Alright, you lift that fin up again. Cut down towards the gill. And then follow on that side of the dorsal fin. Takes practice. You're going to have to go through a few fish before you really get the hang of it, but it's not hard. Put the knife out the other side. And then start shaving. You can hear those ribs, and sometimes you'll mess up, especially if it's a female fish with a fatter belly, or even if it's a male fish with a fat belly. Sometimes the fatter the fish, the rib cage is kind of expanded. With this fish, I like filleting male fish a lot more too because they don't have those egg sacs, kind of making it harder to get that belly meat off of them. Like I said, some guys just fillet right through the rib cage to get it done faster, but you can waste a lot of good meat. And if you're going to harvest an animal, you want to respect that animal by getting the most meat you can off of them. There we go. Got that entire fillet off. The rib cage is right here. But you got yourself a filleted fish here. Just throw that in a garbage bag. Like I said, newspaper, you can just ball it up. You got yourself some clean newspaper right there. Let's get this meat off the skin now. I'll teach you guys how to do that. What you want to do, every fish has what's called a mud line. It's a red, brownish strip of meat that you don't want to eat. It's right on the skin. It's right on the back side of the skin of the walleye. I find them in white bass, pike, any fish, salmon, trout. You don't want to eat the red meat. It doesn't taste good, tastes very muddy. So what I do, I like to fillet above that strip of meat I put my finger down right on the tip of the tail, just like this. And instead of going all the way down to the skin, I'll show you guys real quick, like what it looks like going down to the skin. There. You can see right here, this red meat. You don't want to eat that. So I like to fillet above it, which I'll try to get it started for you guys right here. I might just have to chop it off the fillet, but if you keep your knife about, not 1/4 of an inch, I'd say 1/8 of an inch above the skin, you can get that red meat in one swoop, which on the next fillet I'll show you. But this is there we go. But just take your knife, try to keep it above that red meat. It takes a lot of practice. You can see right here all that red meat. Right here is where you got to get that stuff off of there. You don't want that meat, that red stuff. So some people like it. They think it's flavorful, but if you don't want a fishy, muddy tasting fish fry, don't eat that red meat. I recommend chopping it off. But what you can do if you don't get that red meat off at first is you can just take your fillet knife, get right underneath it. This is where having a sharp fillet knife really counts. You can see it's coming right off all that crappy, disgusting meat. But it's just a thin layer right on the skin itself of the fish. I can promise you, if you follow all these steps, you're going to have delicious fish. Here. Alright. We got most of that. There we go. Got that muddy meat off of there now. And what you want to do is take that fillet, feel around for bones. There's a strip of meat right here. You'll feel it with your finger. It stops right about here. And you want to cut on both sides of it to remove that strip of bone. There we go. You could hear the bones right there. That strip of meat is a bunch of little bones. Now you have yourself a boneless walleye fillet. You can see completely clean, no mud line, no red, brown meat. I'll do that one more time for you guys. But make sure you use the ice water and the salt. Soak your fillets in there. And I like to chop down my walleye fillets into smaller pieces. And if they're thick, I even like to fillet the fillet in half. I'll show you that. But again, don't fillet all the way down to the skin. Keep that knife right above that mudline meat. You can see it right there. And this is just an easier way to not have to go through the hassle of chopping it off. Sometimes that newspaper fights you, but it is what it is. There we go. I promise you, if you get that mud line off your fish, it saves the taste of the fish 100%. Flip that fillet over, feel for those bones. And after a while, it's like second nature. You just do it and get it done. You can hear those bones. Man, that one kind of had a little bit thicker bone line for some reason. Wow. Usually it's a lot thinner strip of meat with the bones in it, but there we go. Got that meat. And it kind of looks like a pair of pants. That's the belly meat right there. This is the back strap. And if you want to really get a lot off of one fillet, you don't want to fry up fish that are too thick because the breading will burn. The meat won't cook thoroughly. It'll be mushy. So what I do is I take that fillet and I like to chop the belly meat off as one piece. There's a strip of belly meat right there. Cut it right there. You got another piece. And then you want to flip it over and look at the thickness of the fillet. And right where it starts to get skinny, I like to cut right there. Got another piece of meat. Then the back strap, the back meat of the fish, is always really thin or thick. So you want to cut it down the middle thin, just like so, and be very careful. Don't cut too fast. But there we go. Some people like thicker pieces of fish, and if you're baking your fish without breading or grilling it, it might work out better. But when you're frying fish, you want thinner pieces of fish, nothing too thick. So you got 2 more pieces of fish off of that back strap right there. And now I'm going to teach you guys how to package the fish for freezing. All right, I just finished filleting 4 walleyes. I'm going to teach you guys how to package and freeze your fish properly now. What you guys want to do is get yourself some Ziploc bags. These are just the quart-sized ones, or any good freezer bag, but make sure they're freezer bags. You guys can also use a vacuum sealer if you want to, but the way I do it, I've had fish last 3 years in my freezer. I forgot a package of walleye a long time ago in the bottom of my freezer. It was still fresh 3 years later, freezing it the way I'm about to show you. But first, you want to mark your bag with a permanent marker. Just put walleye. If you want to, you can put how many pieces are in each bag. But I told you guys to use that salt water. You can, I'd say about a 1/4 cup of salt if I'm doing 4 fish or more when it comes to walleyes. If I'm only doing 1 walleye, maybe use like a couple tablespoons of salt, but you don't need too much salt. But a 1/4 cup for 4 walleyes or more in that pot was about fine. You stir it up with that ice water, and you guys can see right here, all the oils and all the stuff inside the meat is coming out All the ice cubes have melted now, but you gotta watch out with that salt water and ice. It freezes a lot colder than normal freezing temperatures, and it can give you frostbite actually. But you can see this meat is turning super white. I like to just kind of swish it around sometimes. And don't let it soak in that salt water for too long, no more than an hour, because it can make your meat too salty. But this is looking good now. The meat is nice and white. And what I like to do is run really cold water through my fillets, dumping the old water out, just like so. I like to run cold water through these fillets a bunch of times, dumping out that old water over and over again. I swish my hands around through the fillets, get more of that blood, more of that oil out of them. But that salt takes all that oil, all the gross stuff out of the meat, makes the fish taste a lot better, just makes them taste a lot fresher, basically. But you can see all the salt. I wash the salt out of this water and out of these fillets. You can see the white bubbles. That's actually the salt coming out of the meat, coming out of the water. And I do this a few times till those fillets are nice and white. I've seen people package fillets with blood on them still, not doing this process at all, and I would hate to taste what their fish fries taste like, because unless you're gonna eat a fish fresh right out of the water, like a shore lunch or something, you shouldn't be leaving blood and contaminants in your meat. It can make the meat spoil, it can make it taste rancid. And the fillets are getting whiter and whiter the more I do this. And the water is getting more and more clear. Once you see that water just about completely clear, that's when I start to package my fish. Alright, I just finished rinsing out all the salt, blood, and contaminants out of these fillets. If you guys look right here, this water is pretty much crystal clear now. The fillets are nice and white, fresh looking. You want to get that water as clear as possible. Rinse all that salt off your fillets, all that blood, everything. But now I'm going to package these fillets, and you guys can package as many fish as you want into a Ziploc bag, but I find that 5 panfish feeds 2 people just fine, and 1 walleye that's 18 to 20 inches will feed people just fine. So 1 walleye will equal out, because I chopped the pieces down so small, I'm going to put 20 per bag, so 4 fish fries out of this. So I'm just going to count out 20 pieces real quick. Alright, we got 20 pieces of fish now in that bag, and I'm going to take cold water and fill that bag up so the water's just above the fillets, just like so. Take your bag, zip it halfway, well, a little more than halfway, and you want to squeeze the air and the water out of this bag. So squeeze it like that. You gotta watch out because some of these Ziploc bags don't zip all the way. I've been noticing their quality is kind of lacking lately. I've had a few bags open up in the freezer on me. Make sure you zip that up with no air in the bag. No air whatsoever. You might have to try a couple times to get it right, but you want to get all the air out of the bag because air can make freezer burn on your meat. So you'll know it's all out of there when it seals up tight like a vacuum sealed bag, just like this. That's perfect. All the air is squeezed out, and you can lay these flat in your freezer, just like laying them down just like this and stack them on top of each other. Well, that is how you fillet and package walleye. If you guys found this video informative, helpful, entertaining, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. Check out more of my videos, like how to fillet a northern pike and some of my walleye fishing videos. Show your support by subscribing if you haven't already. Good luck fishing. Take care.